Welcome to the Driven Moms Answering Adversity interview series, Stories of Success Through Setbacks from Mom Elevated. Together, we can shine a light on how normal challenges and struggles are, along with how we can overcome and rise above them. Today, we have Carey with us to share her story, and I can't wait to hear it all. So, to get started, would you just share just a little bit about your story?
Sure.
Okay.
So I know that I have a lot of story. Basically, I'm a photographer. I live in New York City. I am a mom of a 5-year-old, and the main theme of my story has been challenges through mental health. So I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was in my late 20s, and it was really, though, I believe, a reaction to post-traumatic stress disorder that I experienced from when I'm going to date myself now, but when the September 11th, 2001 happened, because I had worked down there actually, but I was a photo editor at the Wall Street Journal for the weekend section, right out of school, basically. And might as well just share right now. I had a premonition that the towers were going to come down. A year before they did. And it was terrifying. I had no idea how it was going to happen. I thought it was, I thought it was going to be a natural disaster. But I quit my job 2 months before. And so I wasn't down there. I might have been down there, but I probably wouldn't have, to be honest, because I was always late for work. But when it happened, I had I was just terrified of my intuition. I shut it down, basically. And then doing that probably led to the next episode, which happened 5 years later. Oh, of course, my son wants to talk to me now. This never happens.
That's so normal. That's good timing.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's been, a journey with mental health stuff. And what's up? Quick. Okay. He accidentally swallowed his gum. It's okay.
Oh. At least it wasn't a watermelon seed, right?
Yeah. Right. Drink lots of water. You're okay.
That's so funny. That sounds right.
I never give him gum, but it was like special treat.
Oh, and of course, something he's like, oh, am I okay?
Yeah.
That's perfect. Well, that's okay. So that's wild.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps listening to that. I can't even imagine what it was like to have just that overarching like negative feeling, not knowing what it meant exactly, but then having like an entire year went by before something did happen. How did that feel when it finally did happen? When you're like, oh my gosh, I saw that coming.
It
I
was
didn't
just
realize,
so
but
terrifying, and I didn't understand, I still don't understand how, I haven't really delved into those sorts of abilities that I have. I have some abilities, but I haven't really explored them or had a guide. I haven't had a mentor to help me learn how to use them. So
yeah. That's so when it happened, did it feel more like a big case of deja vu, or like did you remember that you had that?
I don't think I remembered right away. I think it was like it sort of just hit me because it was so shocking as I mean it when it happened. I actually saw it happening live on the news when it happened, because my roommate at the time always watched the news when she was getting ready for work. And so it was on the TV, and she was like, oh, something's happening downtown. Bye, and she left. And she hadn't seen she didn't see really what was happening.
Yeah.
And I just watched in horror as this happened, as it all unfolded. And then I had another roommate there who had just arrived from Sweden. And he and I spent the day together freaking out. And then I don't know. I don't remember exactly when it hit me that I knew that was happening, that it was going to happen. It was sort of like one of those things that did I really have that? But I remember specifically like looking up at them and knowing, just having this clear knowing, um, one day on my lunch break. And I sort of just was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had a lot of interesting things happen that make me feel like, bipolar disorder can sometimes be really misunderstood, and just wrapped up in kind of psycho-spiritual, you know, um, well, I'll also just share that the second time that I had an episode, I'll call it, was when soon after my sister passed away. Suddenly, she was diagnosed 4 months prior with breast cancer, and it was at the same time as my wedding was about to happen a month after she passed. And so and it was a very intense kind of wedding, like very do it yourself kind of, um,
Yeah.
there was a lot to do. And I was, so I was, just thrown into the midst of grief. And we ended up continuing and had the wedding, because if we hadn't, we would have lost a lot of money, like thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So it was really just an intense time.
Yeah.
And, and there was things, I've had interesting experiences, like auditory and visual experiences that can't really be explained, you know? So
So obviously that's a lot of adversity in a small amount of time as well, but how do you think you answered that? Like when you were diagnosed and then when you saw this happen and then when you were in the midst of like a really high emotional time, both happy and sad, like that's an extreme even for anyone not suffering from any mental ill
yeah,
how would you say it? Mental challenges
yeah.
that you're struggling with. So how do you answer that? How did you rise up to that and be like, okay, well, I've got to deal with this somehow?
Yeah. Well, each time has been different. And I had a third episode. I'll just share quickly. I ended up having postpartum psychosis, which was like the scariest thing. I knew that I was prone to having some kind of postpartum challenge. Someone had told me, a prominent psychiatrist had recommended I don't have kids. And then I listened to my intuition, and it took about 2 years, and I was like, no, she doesn't know who I am, and I'm gonna have a kid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was very
What exactly is the difference between like a postpartum depression and a postpartum psychosis? Like what
well,
separates?
I don't know if you've ever heard of terrifying things happening where someone has like hallucinations, and sometimes really tragic things happen. They, end up killing themselves or killing their kid.
Yeah.
So it's like, because it's like a chemical imbalance, but it's not something I don't know. It's like, there's a lot of things to talk about with postpartum psychosis, but basically hallucinations. I mean, a lot of it comes from lack of sleep and
Yeah.
stress and kind of like hormonal imbalances.
Okay.
Um, it's
How did
just,
you did how did you recognize that that's what was happening, or did somebody else have to kind of point it out?
I knew it was starting to happen because, I mean, I recognized it because I had had two prior manic episodes, which have a similar, basically brain chemistry speeds up and you can no longer sleep. I mean, if you can't sleep, a whole host of things can go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
um, and it's just that there's also, some people believe that sort of the veil between the worlds gets thinner, and there's things that can also come through in those times, and sometimes they're not good, and sometimes they are good.
Yeah,
So I'll just say that.
that
um
makes sense.
but I'll just say that after the first episode, so this is over a span of like 16, 17 years, I had 3 episodes, and hopefully never
Yeah.
again. Knock on wood. um I don't think I need to go through that anymore. But the first one, I knew intuitively that I needed to reconnect with nature. That was really my body was telling me this. I live in Brooklyn. I grew up in New York State though, and I grew up surrounded by trees and frolicking in the woods. And so I really missed that so much. And I knew that that was what I needed. And I feel like everyone does. Everyone needs to connect with nature. And so I started creating photos about, actually, I started getting really into feng shui art cure concepts. So that's a whole other story, but it's basically informed what I'm part of what I'm doing now. And so did, after my sister passed away, I went into a deep depression for 2 years, basically. I mean, you know, I was okay. I was functioning, but it was like,
Yeah.
I didn't do any creative photography work during that time. I was photographing weddings and different things here and there, but I wasn't into it.
Right.
And I basically, well, a friend recommended that I start photographing sisters as a way to help me process my grief. And that a light bulb moment, you know, kind of came through there, because I realized how healing it is and how, you know, powerful that process was for me. And I started photographing breast cancer survivors with their sisters too, as a way to help kind of create something good out of that tragedy. Because, you know, well, I got involved with a community of women who are advocates for stage 4 breast cancer research specifically, because that is what receives the least amount of funding for research.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've done a lot. I've won awards for that work too. And some of it's been published in Glamour magazine and Refinery 29 and things like that. So that was great. And I also learned a lot just about what I want to do, because I knew that I wanted to do something. I've always known I want to help people somehow, but I didn't quite know, you know, what that looked like, whether it was just doing commercial photography for purpose-driven brands. That's kind of part of what I do as well. But you know, I'm a fine art photographer trying to figure out how to make a living. That's really what it comes down to. And so, but those two events, and then having gone through postpartum psychosis and kind of well, I knew in the hospital that I was kind of stepping more into my power as an advocate for myself, as someone who wanted to be the best mother I could possibly be to my child, no matter what. I just felt like this, that I wasn't going through all this for nothing. There was going to be a bigger purpose to why I have gone through all of these things. And that's when my son was about 2 and the pandemic started. I had a realization. I had the opportunity to live in nature, surrounded by nature for 4 months, because we had to get out of the city. And I was like, I have to get out of the city, you know. And my husband was like, well, maybe we could stay at my dad's condo in Rehoboth Beach in Delaware, where, you know, he only uses it in the summer.
Yeah.
So we did that. And it was such a blessing, because I was like, oh, this is how I would actually feel if I didn't live in the city. And it was also a time when I had extra time, because, you know, I couldn't really do work. I couldn't do a lot of photo shoots, and I had a 2-year-old anyway. And so I started doing self-portraits around sleep, the importance of sleep and mental health, because I said, you know what, I'm going to start sharing my story, whatever that looks like. And I also had postpartum anxiety, by the way, after postpartum psychosis. And so I experienced a lot of things that women go through that isn't really talked about. I actually didn't even know that postpartum anxiety existed until after I already had been through it. And I'm someone who was trying so hard to prevent postpartum psychosis and postpartum depression that I didn't even know that I should be worried about postpartum anxiety.
Yeah.
It's not really talked about.
No, I don't think a lot of people, I didn't even realize it was a
It's
thing.
a thing. It's
You
a
hear so
thing.
much about PPD that you don't really realize that maybe there's a whole spectrum of possibility.
Yeah. 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 And since I've had it, I've talked to some other women who've had it as well. And we just silently suffer, you know. That's usually what happens. And well, to come back to what I was saying, I created the lens method through this journey, which it's LENS is an acronym. It stands for Light, Empathy, Now, and Storytelling. And it's helping others, women primarily. I'm also going to help teenagers, families, kids. I have a big vision for this, but it's about helping people use their own creative photography as a way to heal and to grow.
Which I love. I love acronyms, first of all. It's so much easier to remember when you have an acronym, especially when it's related to the topic that you're, trying to make awareness around. So I love that it's called the lens method. I fell in love with it the minute you even started talking about it in my group. And I was like, what is this? So I am so excited for you to share more about it. And how do you separate like your programs for adults compared to like how you work with teenagers with it and things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have a 6-week creative incubator program that has to do with helping heart-centered women entrepreneurs create their own better storytelling images to help share their values, share, more images that create more meaningful connection based on what they've been through in their life. Use it. Like those things are your superpowers. How does that look visually? How do you do that? How do you tell those stories visually?
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it. Another for women, for adults, is about more, well, this is going to be with kids too, but it's more about tuning into the frequency of gratitude. It's more energy. It's more kind of, those kinds of ideas about how do we, create more of those kinds of feelings that we want to bring more into our lives, right? So I have this I'm just staring at this post-it note on my wall that I have every day. It's how do I want to feel today? Who do I want to be today? What do I want to give today? And what do I want to receive today? That's Gabby Bernstein. I don't know if you know her.
Yep, I do.
That's her kind of thing that she does every day. And I have it on my desk so that I can see it. And it's how do I create images around those ideas so that it helps reinforce them in my mind? It helps, um, it helps create content if that's what you do, right? If you have a business. And it's also for just people that want to, everyone has a cell phone a lot of the time. Like a lot of people have these smartphones, they can make great photos. So it's like using it as a force for good. And with teenagers, it's about, so I'll just also share that the photo story prompts that I give are inspired by the 5 pillars of emotional resilience. So those are mindfulness, self-awareness, self-care, positive relationships, and purpose. And so it's really emphasizing seeing how each of those pillars are represented in your life. And if they're not, how can we help, create more of a balance there? And, it's about creating images in a fun way, but then having larger conversations, using the photos as talking points for these conversations. So it's like emotional social learning.
I love that. That's beautiful. I'm so excited. I think I think that's phenomenal. And also how good of a way to use the technology that they have every day in their hands, but make it a powerful tool for them instead of like wasting their hours on it. I mean, all of us do it. We'll scroll, we'll play our games on it, but using it as a tool for something to connect yourself, not only more to yourself, but also to the world in a deeper way. I think that's wonderful. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That you
Then
put that so beautifully.
Oh, thank you. So what do you think it is about entrepreneurs that makes us continue on through the challenges? Because obviously you had so many challenges. You also worked with some pretty high-end clients. You had a really, corporate high-end jobs that you could have stayed with. Obviously they weren't necessarily fulfilling, but it was consistent. It was something you could count on. It was, it's like what do you think it is about entrepreneurs that is like, I know there's something more. I'm going to do this instead. We're going to just take the risk. What do you think it is about us that make us continue on through those challenges without giving up when times are tough and just turning back to that corporate job and saying, this is enough. This is fine.
Right. Well, for me as a freelancer, so I did a lot of corporate work, but it wasn't consistent. And it was also really just soul sucking. I mean, I know that corporate jobs are also, I did, I was a photo editor for the Wall Street Journal, which was my first job out of school. And I couldn't do it. I mean, I really couldn't be there. Like, I don't even know how people do it. But I understand that it takes there's a lot of different kinds of personalities, and it's important that there are, people working together and doing things. I don't really know how to put that, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, images are really my first language. But anyway, I I would say the further I pushed away from my true self, the worse off I was financially, just in my own kind of in my personal life too. It's like the further away you get from your true purpose, the worse you're going to feel. And I feel like I just am tuned into that. And finally, I'm really accepting this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm not just a branding photographer. I've created this, this has come to me, through, I mean, we can talk about where it came from or not, but I feel like it's greater than me. And I feel like I'm here to bring it to people. And that's what I'm here to do. And if you feel called to do something that's bigger than you should listen to it, because it's only going to cause pain if you don't. I really feel like that. I really believe that. I really believe that we're here to share our stories and to share what we've been through to help other people. I feel like that helps you grow and become a better person. It helps them grow and become a better person. And what better, I would love to live in a world where we all use our skills and talents and abilities to lift each other up, and and be able to support ourselves in that way, because what better way to work than that, right?
Yeah. Want to see other people's true talents and what they can do, like, instead of stifling them or trying to fit them into a box, being able to really let them come out of their shell and show you what their beauty is really from inside. I think that's wonderful. That's kind of why I do what I do, because I don't know if you watch Call the Midwife at all, but that's I love that show, and I love the camaraderie that they have within their community. It has nothing necessarily to do with how they feel about each other. They don't even necessarily like certain people within the community, but they realize that helping each other and lifting each other up and making sure that they are a strong pillar of society is better for their community. They don't have to interact with them after they've helped them, that's fine. But then there's a stronger community there and they can let that shine. And just because maybe I don't get along with somebody doesn't mean you're not going to be a great friend to somebody else, right? So like seeing those differences and letting them shine is really what makes community such a strong thing. I love that. So beautiful.
Yeah, that's so true.
I have one question too. It's not part of my questioning, but do you think so from the mental health aspect of things, do you think, especially since you are a creative and you do like nature and you've always kind of felt a sense of connection there, do you think that through your lens method and through connecting with just nature and everything again, do you think that helps keep you grounded? Pun not intended, but do you think it helps keep you grounded in seeing like what's real, what's now, what's important, and keeping it.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I feel like that's another reason why so many people do what they need, right? Like, and that's really what I'm incorporating too. I need this too. So I feel like the more, because I also have, my son is a challenge. He's got I don't love these kinds of labels, but he's got sensory processing
Oh, yeah.
issues.
Mhm.
And it can be really, really hard. And and if I don't have, and I need more for sure, but if I don't have any sort of way to um let my emotions move through me, and you know uh just, well, we can get into basically mindfulness, right? It's like the more you can practice mindfulness, the more you're able to better navigate those challenges.
Yeah. Do you think it
And
helps him to see you do that?
oh yeah, I'm sure it does. I mean, and we, when we go out, I always try to get him to go barefoot on the grass if as much as I can, or hug a tree. Like we do that stuff because it's really it helps. It really does. I mean, I really feel like when I hug a tree, it's like coming home.
That's beautiful. Ah, I love that. What takeaway or overall lesson do you think that other mompreneurs can use from your specific experience?
Hmm. I would say, I would say, well, I have just what comes to mind is about sort of, we mentioned, the frequency of gratitude, right? So what can you, this is just a takeaway that you could do quickly or easily, that say, what I try to do is I look for what I call the 3 L's. So light, love, and laughter. And as so that you're creating photos, maybe you're already doing that about some of those things, but with intention, right? So uh and really taking a moment to feel it, to feel that, the energy of that, and try to stay in that frequency as much as possible. I have a really hard time. I probably am even having a hard time getting out this answer because I've been so battling my own issues around where we live. I don't want to live in Brooklyn. Like, I need more nature.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to be in that state of gratitude for what we do have. And, um, because I always feel like it's not right. It's not right. Like we're not supposed to be here and this isn't good for me or for my son. But, as much as I can hold that state of gratitude and compassion is huge too. You know, if I uh if I create images around that, it helps remind me. And I try to look at them again. And sometimes we take photos and we just never see them again. Right. But if we actually take the time to kind of look and see, oh yeah, like look at this, series of photos I created of um my son and dog frolicking around on our deck. I'm so grateful that we have this outdoor space. So many people don't in New York City, and it's like, I just say that to myself and then I try to feel it and really feel into it. And it helps. And it helps to have that visual reference, I think.
No, I think that's powerful. I think that's why vision boards are such a big
Mm-hmm.
thing, especially lately, is because it's a different way for your brain to see what you want, visualize it, make it happen. It does want to make that happen. And so same thing with gratitude or what you're surrounding yourself with. If you're seeing what you're grateful for, that's gonna just make it that much more impactful. It's kind of like it's proven that if you write things down, you're gonna remember them better. It's kind of a similar sense to that. So I think
Yeah,
that's great. Also,
exactly.
the 3 Ls, you have a freebie on your website, correct? That they can
I
hop
do.
grab as a reminder, as a visual reminder.
I do. And I also talk in there about how you can create your own visual gratitude journal. And so I encourage people to do this. You could use Canva. You can put your own photos, put your own affirmations or quotes and things, and actually get it printed, because that's sends even more of a powerful message to the universe, right? Like it's basically creating a vision book board. You know what I mean? So that's something that I encourage people to do too. And there's great quotes in there too to help people get started.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love quotes. I surround myself with words all the time. So I love that. Oh, fantastic. Okay. What is the best way then for others to find you if they'd like to work with you or learn more about you or even just connect with you and get that conversation rolling? Obviously, I'll put links in the description, but in case they're just listening, so they can.
Yeah. I would say through my website, you could find everything. I do have a handy links page now so it's careyKirkella.com/links, so that you could see kind of all of my current offers related to the lens method. And you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook, just all under my name. Also, I have a newly started Facebook group that's for the lens method. And so people can post their own images and I can give feedback, or just kind of, we could just encourage each other to keep it up.
Yeah.
So that's something that that's there too. I may create a new Facebook group that's specifically for women entrepreneurs to, to create their content and to help support them. So,
And
yeah.
what's the link for the lens method one? The I
Um,
imagine facebook.com/groups/
yes. Of course, I can't remember suddenly, but it's like, let me see.
okay.
Let's see if I
Or
can
you can just
quickly find it.
pop it over to
Um,
me and I'll make sure it's in the links for sure, but
It's Lens Method.
lens method. Okay, perfect. Groups/lens method. Find it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Thank you so much for joining us today. I I mean, I already knew some about you, but this is a deeper look and I think that's what's so beautiful about being able to have this platform and share other people's stories. It's so fascinating to hear, and people never think that their story is worth hearing or that they even have a story at all, but I love hearing that and getting that out of you, and it's so relatable in so many different ways. I know it's going to be very impactful for a lot of people. So thank you for taking the time to share with us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to do it. And I feel like, yeah, I think it takes a while sometimes for people to really understand the value of their story. And I think that I want to help people, just remind people that that's true. Somebody out there needs to hear your story.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because your story is inspirational, right? So, and yours absolutely is. And your willingness to be open about it is very much appreciated and needed in this space. So, again, thank you so much for being with us today. And for those of you out there who are facing your own adversity, know that you're not alone. That's the whole point of this entire series and why we're doing what we're doing. When you need an extra hand or a mind for brainstorming during your mompreneur journey, we would love to work with you through the Mom Elevated Society as well. You'll find monthly check-ins for goal setting and assessing, and so much more for both your business and your mom life. And until next time, keep shooting for the stars. Thanks, guys. Bye.